Well, I was wondering what I was going to speak about tonight, and when I saw your Panchatattva, I immediately knew what I would speak about. Because Srila Prabhupada asked me to make Panchatattva in 1970. And Hawaii, which is where our temple was, Honolulu, Hawaii, has the first Panchatattva deities in the movement. And we made them because at that time in 1970, there was not the kind of exchange with India that we have now where we can get deities and all these things. At that time, there was practically no, there was practically no, phone or, things just didn't work. Things that were sent sometimes didn't arrive, drugs didn't arrive, cartels didn't arrive, stuff like that. So we made Panchatattva. He described exactly how he wanted them made. And he, initially, he said, make Gaudi deities. And so, he told me what color to make them, so I brought him from a paint shop, different color, it has different colors, and he checked the color that he wanted them to be, which I still have that piece of where he checked it, showing the color. And he told us to make them large. Actually, they're about the same size as what you have here. They're about the same size. And we made them a mold, a structure out of metal. And then we used clay and created them from clay. And then we had no idea how we were going to do this. But somehow or other, they manifested. And after we made the clay, we needed someone to make a mold. So I went to the nearby University of Hawaii in Honolulu and found a young man there who was a rabid atheist, actually, but he was the head of the sculpture department. He was a graduate student and knew everything about how to make molds. So I started bringing him prasadam. He initially got initiated. His name was Brishni. And he made molds for us so that we could create them. And after we got the Gaudi deities done, we sent a picture to Srila Prabhupada. And he was so happy with the picture, he said, okay, now make Panchatattva too. So by the time, it took about a year to do all this, and we made, actually on my website, there's pictures of these first Panchatattva deities. And the installation, he came and installed them. He came to Honolulu and installed them. I think it was in 71, you know how this years start getting, it was 71 or 72, I think it was 71. And so he installed them with fire sacrifice and everything, and taught us how to worship them. I still have the detailed notes on exactly how they're to be dressed and everything. And initially he said Dhoti and Kurta, dress them like Bengali gentlemen. But then we also said if you sometimes dress them with skirts, that's nice too. So I'm just surprised to see Panchatattva in Europe. It's a big shop. And I'm sure you're worshiping them. They're very beautiful. Very beautiful. Where were they made? In Mayapur?
Yes.
Does anyone know where they were made?
Mayapur. In Mayapur.
In Mayapur. In Mayapur. Neem? Are they neem wood?
From Neem, yes.
Well, see, our deities weren't neem wood because we didn't even know what neem wood was at the time. But Prabhupada accepted them and installed them. Actually, they were very beautiful. And Panchatattva is still worshipped in Hawaii, and my best friend Kushadevi is managing the temple there right now, and puts pictures every day online of them, their outfits and everything. You might want to look at it, It's a Honolulu temple. Anyway, I just wanted to share that with you since I saw Panchatattva. It's like I'm surprised. So, I'm not much of a scholar. I can read diverse, but that's not my thing. I never was a scholar. I never wanted to be a scholar. I basically can talk about Prabhupada or I can read the verse, whichever you prefer. But you can read the verse and you probably do a better job of it than me. When contemplating the object of senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment lust develops, and from lust anger arises. Well, we all know about that, don't we? So let us contemplate the beauty of the Panchatattva so that we don't have lust arise, we have desire for pure devotional service arise. I think that's the purport of Krishna consciousness. So I'm not sure, I don't know you, I don't know my audience, I don't know what you want to know or what you, I mean, I have some things that I can say because I was with Srila Prabhupada for over 10 years. I met him in 1967, and my purpose, of course, is to share my memoirs of Srila Prabhupada, since I'm an old lady that won't be here much longer. Most of the Prabhupada disciples are leaving, as you know. And human birth is great, but it has an expiration date on it. So, where are your books? So this is my memoir book about Srila Prabhupada, and it's about how I met him in 1967, in January of 1967, when he first came to San Francisco, and the early times and the sweetness of the early times of the Hare Krishna movement, which are, I'm sure you've probably heard, a very special time. Very, very special time. Is there somebody on the other side of this pillar that I'm looking straight at? No? Okay, just a water bottle. I feel better about that now. Anyway, it's called A Place of Sandalwood and Roses, and it's basically a young. My book is written for anyone who comes to Krishna consciousness, a young seeker. Because when we were young, we started asking these questions about who am I, what am I doing here, what is my life for, and sometimes those questions are not easily answered. So it was my personal search and how it culminated in meeting Srila Prabhupada, and that changed my life completely. So, at the back of the book it says, how do we get to that place of sandalwood and roses where eternity, wisdom, and bliss prevail? Enter that sacred place within the memoirs of a young seeker lost in a world gone mad. Very much like today's world gone mad. Maybe about the same, actually. Navigating through the cultural chaos of the late 1960s America, her restless search for the why leads her to the practice of yoga meditation. One day she picks up a magazine in a metaphysical bookshop and reads an intriguing description of a Swami who has just come from India to teach the ultimate spiritual path of Bhakti Yoga. Witness firsthand the ecstatic joy as she discovers the transcendental world of her beloved Guru, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and how through loving service to him, the destiny beyond her wildest dreams is revealed. So I basically try to encourage devotees by sharing memories of Srila Prabhupada, because nowadays there's a lot of this is Kali Yuga, and naturally there's a lot of different opinions and fighting and this and that, and some temples have several different factions, and this person doesn't come, all this kind of stuff. And I am of the belief that if we simply focus on Srila Prabhupada, a lot of those quarrels, a lot of that dissension will be alleviated. And it seems to work. It seems to work really well. Because as soon as we start thinking about, talking about, listening to Srila Prabhupada, listening to his kirtans, listening to his lectures, it seems that our consciousness goes to a different place, and his presence is palpable, and it lifts us above our temporary conditioning that we all have, that we're all a victim of, really, in Kali Yuga. So that is my main purpose. That also, and the fact that nowadays we have a lot of people who are unhappy with the way they're dealt with, and I think that that's something that we can work on if we understand how Srila Prabhupada dealt with others, if we understand how he dealt with governors, important people, VIPs, and most of all, his disciples. And if we understand and we actually have a glimpse of his kindness and his mercy and what a wonderful person that he actually is, then I think that we can learn to treat one another with greater respect and greater fairness. So that's another perspective. But I don't really know my audience here, so I'm wondering if you can maybe ask a couple of questions so that I can get an idea of what you want to know. And that would give me an idea, because you have to understand, people want to hear about Srila Prabhupada, but I was with him for 10 years. There's a lot of things, I was with him in San Francisco, New York, and then I traveled as his secretary. I traveled as his secretary and servant along with my husband for over a year. And then he came and lived with us in Hawaii after he sent us to Hawaii to open temples. He sent couples to different cities to open temples. Temples were nothing more than a little storefront at that time. You have to understand, we had no books, we had no temples, we had no deities, and no Harnam. So try to conceive of what it was like. Now you have all of these wonderful things, but we didn't have any of that at the time. All we had was Srila Prabhupada. And somehow that was enough to keep us around for 50 years or more. So we can only speak from what we learned. There were no books. I personally transcribed Chaitanya Charitamrita and Nectar of Devotion at Satrup, transcribed Srimad Bhagavatam from the dictaphone. But nothing was printed. Our first Gita wasn't printed until 68. And so this is what we learned was that Srila Prabhupada's personal care, loving concern, and guidance was more than enough for a whole worldwide movement to be born. And which is still amazing to me, because when I go to temples in remote places, I was just in Bosnia, and of course I've been to India many times, and I see what grew from a tiny seed in the Lower East Side of New York, like a giant vine has just grown all over the world. And it can't be, it's completely amazing. But Lord Chaitanya said every town and village, and he also said, even if they flee to the foreign countries, I shall send my Senapati Bhakta to bring them back. And he did. His Senapati Bhakta, of course, is his commander-in-chief, Srila Prabhupada. And I think most of you are probably familiar with this, aren't you? You know about all this, so I assume you do. But anyway, if you'd like to ask a question or what you would like me to talk about, I would really appreciate that, because I really don't know anyone here. We just got here and I'm struggling with stairs and the problems of being old and traveling anyway. Last year I could walk when I traveled in Germany, and I traveled in Germany and Switzerland and Rhodesia and Belgium and I could walk. But this year I'm having more problems, so it's a little bit more difficult. So does anyone have some questions what you would like me to talk about, if there's something you want to know about my time with Srila Prabhupada, or what you have in mind.
I have a question.
Best come forward because I may not hear you way over there in the corner.
We have a microphone though.
But even still, come forward. Why don't you sit right here? Yeah. So what is it?
Oh, he's gonna give a microphone.
You're from India?
Yeah, from Delhi.
From which part?
Delhi. New Delhi.
New Delhi. Okay. And you were raised a devotee, or your family was from?
Yeah.
Okay.
My
you,
mom
you
is.
may have questions I won't be able to answer.
No. No. I was wondering if you could actually say something about your cooking for Srila Prabhupada, something that you really like, or perhaps share some recipe. I mean, although I saw some recipes online, but something that you could share, something that he really liked, and let's say something that he wanted you to make, cook in certain ways.
She's asking about you cooking for Srila Prabhupada.
I'm sure you probably cook better than me because you're an Indian girl.
Oh, for sure not. I'm still learning how to cook. So.
She's asking maybe you can share what you cooked for him or
Oh,
some
sure,
recipes,
that's easy.
right?
Okay.
And the kind of recipes that he liked and something like that.
Or some recipes that Srila Prabhupada liked.
Like really appreciated, or something like typical, something that he would eat.
Well, Srila Prabhupada very much liked kachoris. Not the kachoris that are big and fat and clunky. He liked the hard to make kachoris, the kind that they puff up just like a puri, but they're lined on the inside with urd dal.
Uh-huh.
You know that kind?
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but that's what he liked.
Khasta kachori. Khasta kachori.
Kasta?
Khasta kachori, yeah.
Kasta kachori.
That's made in Delhi.
Yeah, see, nobody knows how to make those anymore. I mean, they're so difficult to make because the urd dal mush squishes out while you're trying to roll them, so it takes a few tries. It's very difficult to make those. But I can tell you that he really liked them, and he liked them with a wet potato. And when we were traveling, we were in Seattle. And Srila Prabhupada had to take a plane all the way across the United States to New York and then Montreal alone. And normally he didn't travel alone. My husband and I traveled with him. But at that time, it's 1968, we didn't have the money for that many tickets to go all the way from the west coast of America all the way to the east coast and then into Canada. And Prabhupada had to do this for his visa. It was very shaky at that time. We didn't know if he was going to get a visa to be able to stay in the United States, because most of the immigration laws changed in 1971, and this is 68. But he traveled there, and so I was taking care of him in Seattle at that time, and he wanted kachoris for the airplane flight. So I did a lot of praying and a lot of, they didn't work, the kachoris, the stuff squishes out. And he taught me how to make them. He said, you put them in and in the hot ghee, and they puff up once, and then you take them out, and then you put them in again until they turn reddish. And that was, he said, reddish. And so, on that particular day, which my kachoris came out, they came out pretty good, actually. It was really, you have to blend, you have to soak the urd all overnight, and you have to blend it, and you have to put the hing, and put and nothing, it has to be completely smooth like toothpaste, because otherwise it's squished through. So he liked them so much that he kept asking for more and more and more. And so finally, I said, he usually would eat 4 chapatis, so I was planning on that. But he was up to number 7. I said, Srila Prabhupada, if you keep eating them, you won't have enough for your airplane. There won't be anything for your lunch, and there's not time for making more. Never mind, you bring more. And I brought more. And he did eat 8 of them that day. And I felt very happy that he liked them. Of course, I could probably never pull that off again. I'm sure I couldn't do it. Anyway, that was what his favorite thing was. And Ladu and Kachoris. There was a time once when he was getting massage. Actually, this happened more than once, and sometimes he would be in a very ecstatic mood. And so he said he was in an ecstatic mood in his mood of Krishna consciousness, which of course we don't really know what that is like, but we glimpsed it by being around him. And he was rubbing his hands together, and he was being massaged by the person massaging, either my husband or someone else. It happened a couple of times. And he was saying, Krishna's mother Yashoda, she makes all kinds of wonderful preparations for him to take to the forest. So she sends Ladu and Kachoris. And we didn't know what Ladu and Kachoris was. At that time, this was earlier, we didn't know what they were. So he said, if you make me Ladu and Kachoris, I will bless you. So we immediately said, show us how to make them, show us how to make them. And that's how he showed us how to make them. And the Ladu is like the Ladu we get at Tirupati temple. You know?
Is that the basin Ladu?
Huh?
The basin Ladu?
I don't know what you call that either, I wish I knew. It's a big ball, like a baseball, and it has like little Rice Krispie things that you fried in ghee. And then what he did was he stirred in slivered almonds and raisins and camphor, and they taste very similar to the ones that you buy at, you could get them at Tirupati. Tirupati is famous for them. And Prabhupada used to say that people will carry these on trains, because if you have to travel 2 or 3 days on a train, and simply with 2 or 3 of these big baseballs, all food is soft. Because it's chickpea flour, almonds, raisins, sugar, ghee. Is that what's the name of those?
Yeah, chickpea flour, and Ladu generally made from chickpea flour. 2 are. Either it's called motichur ke Ladu, or it's called besan Ladu.
What is it called?
Besan Ladu. Besan is chickpea.
Beta?
Besan.
Oh, besan.
Yeah.
But sometimes people say ladu or ladu. And sometimes people, and I don't know really because I don't know Hindi. But they, it can be a square thing, but this is very distinctly a big round ball with, I'd say Rice Krispies because that's the only thing that Westerners can relate to. Like you fry the little besan tidbits, and then in the ghee, and then you let them drain, and then you put them in the sugar water along with the almonds and the raisins. I'm sure this is boring like anything to all these guys, but you ask the question, I'll answer whatever you answer. So do you have some more philosophical type questions or something?
How Prabhupada was taking care of devotees.
How did he take care of the devotees?
Yeah.
With love and concern. So much love, so much concern. This is a big important point that we really need to look at, because I think it's one of our biggest problems in our movement, because so many, like recently, there was an article that came in the New York Times, which is You don't know what that is probably, but it's the biggest newspaper in America. It's like millions and millions of people saw this, which was about a young lady who was treated very badly in Philadelphia. And it was a scathing article. And there have been a lot of other scathing articles with the child abuse and all these other things. And he would be very, very sad to see this because he took care of each. He used to say that each devotee takes so many gallons of blood, meaning so much effort. To not care for them and then they go away is a big disappointment. If a devotee left, he would sometimes cry. He cared so much. So I think part of the problem is that devotees just don't know. We have philosophical texts. We have all the books now. I don't know, I imagine in your language you have them, don't you? And we have all the philosophy down, but we are lacking, at least this is what the public says, and this is what a lot of devotees say too, and she has more friends that have left than she has friends in the movement at this point, you know, my friend here. And probably we need to learn how Prabhupada dealt with others. And I think the way that we can do that is by reading about it. And there's so many wonderful memoirs now. Mukunda, who was the original devotee who got the 26 Second Avenue, you heard of that, haven't you? The first temple in New York, which was just a storefront. That is from Mukunda, and then Shamsundar has written, Yamuna has written some wonderful memoirs. And reading about how Srila Prabhupada dealt with his disciples will help us to understand him as a person. Right now, the problem that we are having, in my analysis, is, and not just mine, everybody says there's an impersonal attitude. It's everywhere. I don't know about here, I just came here, but I've seen it in various places. It is improving. People are starting to be aware of this. I know my godbrother, what's his name? Mahatma. My godbrother Mahatma is addressing some of these issues, I believe. I haven't heard his talks on them, but I've been told that by others. And so we need to learn how to deal with one another in order to, it's easy to make devotees, but they don't stay. After some time they go away. If they bond with Srila Prabhupada and they understand his love, they experience, it's an actual experiential thing. For example, this book is called A Bond of Love. It's 150 or so devotees. It's an anthology where they write, each one writes a small amount of their dealings with Srila Prabhupada. And what impressed me most is some of these devotees had almost no association with Srila Prabhupada. Maybe they went in for Gayatri for 5 minutes, maybe they got a letter in the mail. And yet, 50 years later, they have developed a spiritual relationship with him over even in separation. And I'm amazed by this because I was extremely fortunate. I had a huge amount of association with Srila Prabhupada. I could come and go and see him whenever I wanted in the early times. And even at the end, we traveled with him to Kumbh Mela in 77, and we're with him in Bhubaneswar. But some of these devotees hardly had any association, and yet by the spiritual potency of Srila Prabhupada, they are able to actually grow spiritually and experience his blessings, experience his inspiration, and many devotees ask, I'm new, how can I develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada? So I think that's why I'm focused on this, because that's what I get asked everywhere I go, is how can I develop a relationship with Srila Prabhupada? How can I actually feel this? So Srila Prabhupada dealt very kindly and very lovingly with his disciples, his boy disciples and his girl disciples. He was always caring. If someone was sick, he would go out of his way to try to take care of them. I know my best friend Kusha, her husband was Shruti Kirti, who traveled with Prabhupada for, I think, about 3 years. And once he was sick in Mayapur, and he was just lying on the floor. He had malaria and whatever else, probably everything. You know how you get sick in India. And Prabhupada came in and he was like, why isn't anyone taking care of him? Bring him some water. Get a mattress for him. You know, he was caring. And there was another time when Yamuna was sick and Prabhupada went to her room to see what she needed. So he was caring of his disciples. And we need to learn how to be caring of one another, because by doing this, we will develop love for one another instead of fighting, and we will have people stay instead of going away. So is that a good enough answer for your question? Or?
Yeah, very nice.
I mean, all I can say to you is this. Read about how he dealt with others. And you can find that out from there are beautiful memoirs that have been written. The Lilamrita is good for chronology. It tells what happened when and what year and all that. But it doesn't talk about his dealings with others that much. It's primarily a chronological, historical type of thing. So if you read Shan Sundar's books, they're the best, in my opinion. Oh my God, I think they're so good. Or you read Yamuna's books, Mukunda's. There's so many now. I mean, in fact, there was a devotee in, where were we at? Split? Is that where it was?
Radhe Govinda?
Yeah, which town is that?
Split.
That has made a hobby or a study of all of the books written on Srila Prabhupada. And he brought me a list. There's over 300 of them. Some of them aren't in English, some of them are in Bengali, some of them are, I mean, there's a lot of books written. So if you read those of the early disciples, I mean, just like this is a really crude example, but the biblical texts, I mean, it's a very crude example, but I don't know, is this a Christian country? Are people raised with Bible here?
Roman Catholic.
Yeah, they are. Just like the New Testament is like Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and John. Basically, those were the guys that were near to Jesus, and they described what they saw. And nowadays, that's like considered very valuable for people who want to know who Jesus was and so forth. So similarly, these memoirs in the future are going to be like that. Maybe they won't be like the Bible, and I mean, I don't know about that, but they will be valuable to those who want to know who Srila Prabhupada is. What was he like? What did he do? Who is this person that managed to change the whole world? He changed the whole world, you know that, right? I mean, this is just the beginning. Don't think that it's over. The future will bring more. And there are more and more souls being born now who will be purer than our generation, have a better upbringing, hopefully, if we treat them nicely. That's why the children were so important, that you're familiar with Prabhupada giving a cookie every day to the kids. You've seen videos of this, haven't you?
Yeah.
So this is because the children, there will be generations of people, and they will want to know. After Prabhupada left, why don't you show them the dream? Unfortunately, I don't have any more of them. I gave them all away. But I did have, after Prabhupada left this world, I had a very vivid dream of him. I've had many, but that was a special one because it was a painting. I was an artist. I originally was an artist. And in the dream, I saw Srila Prabhupada sitting in a big Vyasa sign on the curvature of the Earth planet. She's going to show it to you. She'll look it up. I can only show you on a little phone because I have printed big canvases of them for temples, and maybe I can get your address and send you one. I'll send some to maybe to Nandarani, and she can arrange to get them to everyone. And anyway, in the dream, Srila Prabhupada was sitting on this huge Vyasasan on the curvature of the earth, and all the people of the whole world were pointing, every nationality, every religion, every color, everyone was pointing and looking at him. It was a central composition where he's sitting in the center, and up above, and it was a bright blue. And at that time of the dream, I didn't know that the spiritual world was bright blue. I wasn't aware of that. But it was a bright blue, sky blue, and there were demigods dropping flowers on him. And then it was like a zoom lens went in on the base of the Vyasasan, which were sparkling jewels. And because there were such sparkling jewels, I didn't see it at first. I just saw sparkling jewels. But there on the base of the Vyasasan was the word ISKCON, I-S-K-C-O, in jewels. And the information transmitted to me in the dream, I was told to take color notes and paint this painting and distribute it all over the world. And so the information was that ISKCON is Prabhupada's vahana, his sitting place in this world for doing the work that he's come to do, which is writing his books. And so that is the vision that was given to me many, many years ago, soon after Prabhupada left. And I can't say I've been very successful in getting it done, but now I do have many of the paintings that finally have been printed in China. And so I will try to send that to you. But that is the vision that I had, that all of the whole world will be looking to him. And he said these things. I'm sure you've read some of them. I'm sure you've heard that he said that after the war, the preaching will be very good. I'm sure you've heard that he said that Lord Chaitanya was at every town and village. And already, every town and village is starting to happen. Many people are aware of this now that weren't aware of it before. So, does that answer your question? A little bit?
Yeah.
Not really, huh?
No, very nice.
Any more questions?
So there is a question from internet, from one devotee. I'm sure you have many wonderful experience and remembrance of being with Srila Prabhupada. What would you say touched you the most when you were in his personal association? Is there maybe something about Srila Prabhupada that we are not much aware of, or some misconception, and you would like to share it with us? Thank you very much.
So, can I bring you, Manjari, can I bring you the phone?